Hello, it's Denise from Women Beyond a Certain Age. I know I say this every single guest, but I mean it with every single guest. But our guest today is special, so special, and I feel like I've known her forever, and yet I haven't. But here she is. Her name is Claire Berger, and she's here talking today about her career, her life, and her new book, which is called How Much Is Enough? I had to look for a minute because Claire, I'm famous for mispronouncing things or saying the wrong thing. And I'd like to get your name and your book title correct. So
that means a lot to me. Thank you, Denise.
It's never intentional. It's ADHD and getting old. The combination now is memory provoking. Let's put it that way.
I feel
Thank you. Thank you for today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I am so excited to sort of meet you via Zoom and have this conversation and share, all kinds of details and information and inspiration from the book. It's really my life passion right now. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity.
Let me tell people this, Claire, before we go any farther too. Because sometimes people will pull up the website as they're listening to the podcast. Claire Berger, Berger, is her website. Gives you, I just thought it was one, your bio, Claire, which is your resume, which is very impressive. Two, shows you the new book that you've written. And three, Claire lets you download a chapter of the book for free, which I think is just brilliant. And I read it yesterday, Claire, and I thought, oh my God, this is fantastic. Tell us the tagline that you've written for the name of your book.
Well, so it's How Much Is Enough? Getting more by living with less. And it's really a chapter of life that I am living right now. 3 years ago, I left my big giant life in Los Angeles and moved to this teeny tiny garden apartment in a brownstone that my kids and grandkids live in. And I totally reinvented my life. And really, I don't need a lot. It's really the combination of this move and the pandemic has really given me pause, and other people as well, to do some thinking about really how much is enough in all aspects of our life. And everybody that I talked to had another idea of a topic they wanted to explore. And so there's 22 chapters that explore different topics about the concept of enough. And you can read the book in no particular order. Just whatever chapter speaks to you, go for it.
I think it would be I read the sample chapter, which is about fun, which we're going to talk about some more. Claire, it's so fascinating to me. And I have these discussions with people all the time because when is it enough? Do you know what I mean? I found this out, and this is about 5 years ago. My husband is 5 years older than I am. So he'd been a practicing attorney for 50 years in LA. And in his office, beautiful office, the landlord wanted another 10-year lease. And he came home and said to me, so he was 73, 74. He said, I'm not doing this right now. I'm not going to court for 10 more years. I'm not signing another 10-year lease. So he was the one that said, if we sold the house here in LA and our little house in Ventura and we bought our forever home in Ventura, that's what we can do. And then he said to me, and you can retire. And I have to tell you something, Claire. I said, retire? Because I'd never even thought about it. I was 67, 68. But you know what? I was really tired, Claire. And also, I talked to a couple of my girlfriends, and they all said what you're saying. When is it enough? Some of my friends said, you've already won awards, you published books. What the hell? Denise, what are you still doing this for? And at first, I'm not kidding you, Claire, I was offended. I thought, how dare those people say that to me? But you know what? It made me stop and realize that, I don't have to do that the rest of my life. Matter of fact, since the rest of my life, the runway is getting shorter and shorter, maybe I ought to think about doing something else.
Yeah, because I think when we're in our 20s, we're like professionally shot out of a cannon. You know, everything is possible, and we want to accomplish all these exciting new things, and we won't take no for an answer, and we're going to barrel through, and we're going to get those jobs. And, you know, I'm 67, and I look back at my career with so much pride. It was such a patchwork of so many great shows and opportunities. And I am so happy to be in this age and stage. And I could not have written this book a day earlier than I wrote it. I really needed to be at this place in my life to do the reflection that I think really is the heart of the book.
I neglected to give some of your credentials. So we can do that right now, Claire, because you said shows. Claire, if people, and especially industry people, which is why I was so incredibly impressed, because I worked on probably many of the shows that you were the warm-up comedian. Now, people don't see if people have never gone to a show taping or Claire. So when I look at you, you say you're 67. You did this for what, 40 years in Hollywood?
Pretty much. I mean, yeah. I really did it up until they stopped shooting in front of a live audience. Let's be honest. They're not really shooting in front of live audiences anymore. But my first show was the Tracy Ullman Show. And that's in the late 80s. And that's where the Simpsons were born. And a fellow cast member from Second City, Dan Castellaneta, who went on to become Homer, he was in the ensemble. And nobody wanted that job because, you know, a lot of people think warm-ups just like kind of get the audience going and then leave. But no, we're there from the minute the audience loads in until the last one walks out. And in the case of Tracy Ullman, you know, she would go backstage and come out 45 minutes later as a 300-pound Black woman. I had to cover that time, you know. We had a great band and we had a fabulous audience. And the show was like opening night on Broadway every Friday. You know, the sets, the music. I mean, James Brooks was the showrunner. You know, it was really throwing myself into the fire. But I loved the show, and I wanted the hardest job I could get so I could really prove myself to the business, and that's what happened.
And you were a woman.
Yes, one of the first, I will say. And I will also tell you that a lot of my colleagues were really miffed at my drive to become the busiest and best warm-up, because to them, the spotlight isn't ever on the warm-up. I'm not going to get on SNL or The Tonight Show or Letterman, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was to entertain, to be a comedian, and to raise my children. And as a woman in comedy, you know, the men had no problem going on the road and missing their kids' childhoods. But guess what? I didn't want to do that. And I'm so proud to sit here with you today and say my kids, my 33 and 36-year-old kids, look back and say, no, mom was there. Mom was there, you know? So I feel really proud of that. That's my greatest professional achievement, honestly, was being able to work on all these great shows and raise my kids.
Well, because you must have worked during the day so you could be home when they got home from school or be there at dinner.
Well, I actually worked at night. We shot the show at night. And so I was actually took them to school and met them after school, got them the snack and handed them off to their dad. And I had night work. So it was the best mom job ever. And they got to hang out. We lived when they were little in Burbank, right behind Warner Brothers and Disney. And I worked on those lots, and they got to hang out with the Warner Brothers fire chief and on the back lots. And, you know, this was a great way to grow up. Come on, you know, it was so fun.
Great way to grow up. You know, when you said that, the industry has changed so much. And I know in just the last few years, I wasn't thinking, of course, Claire, they don't even load in audiences anymore.
No. Our job is, my job as a warm-up is basically obsolete. The last show I worked on was the Mad About You reboot. And I got a call from Peter Tolan, the executive producer, and Paul Reiser, the creator and star. And I hadn't done warm-up at that point in about 17 years. And they're like, Claire, come on, like, you're the perfect demographic. This is a sitcom about empty nesters, you know, leaving for college. They're your age. And I said, okay. And it was like walking on a tightrope without a support. Like I had no act anymore. I wasn't working in comedy clubs anymore, but I
Yeah.
was just telling the truth about my life. And, so much of this book is rooted in truth. People say it's funny and I'm super flattered, but I'm not telling jokes. I'm telling the
I know.
truth. And the truth is pretty entertaining when it comes to my life, I have to say.
And so you decide it's a huge move to move across the country.
It is.
And
It is.
with your children, and do you have grandchildren too?
Yes, they're the reason I'm here. I have a 2 and a 6-year-old, and they're my North Star. Denise, they're the reason that I came here. Totally reinvented my life. I live in Brooklyn now in a 130-year-old brownstone, and I pick them up from school every day, and we hang out together every afternoon. I cook for the family 2 or 3 nights a week. I mean, this is a win-win for all of us. We are really living a very new, old-fashioned kind of life.
Claire, it makes me feel Cindy's from a family where her parents lived like next door to her grandparents. Her family's been in Venice for 4 or 5 generations. I mean, old time. In my family, my grandfather lived in San Francisco, and we always did within a few blocks until we moved to Marin. But the reason for that, and when you say that, it's so what I think more and more people should really be looking at and doing again. Having grandparents when you're a kid teaches you it teaches you about life, the big pictures of life.
And longevity.
And longevity.
And understanding that their mom has a mom.
Yes.
It's really kind of trippy,
Yeah.
And that so much of who their mom is has a lot to do with who their grandma is,
Exactly.
So it's really, really fun. We laugh a lot. I cannot say enough. We're talking about fun here today, about spending time with young children, because they are utterly unfiltered. Teaching kids how to tell a joke is hilarious and kind of like superfluous because they are just so innately funny and here for a good time. And I really, really love the opportunity to see life through my grandkids' eyes.
What a gift for your daughter to have you there, and then have someone else caring for her children and supporting her. This is huge.
And how great is my son-in-law? I mean, I didn't give birth to him. I gave birth to his wife, so it's like for him, like he is surrounded. I'm like, I am so sorry, Patrick, because, they have 2 girls. I'm like, you are just surrounded, and their dog's female,
You know what? Happy
on.
wife, happy life. No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
Patrick's
Yeah.
obviously gotten the message early that he's supposed to be surrounded by women.
Yeah, they are so fun. We're about to do a full gut renovation on this brownstone. And so we're packing up and getting ready to move out for about a year. And the middle apartment, the salon apartment, they've invited every kid in the neighborhood to come with a paintbrush and a magic marker to just cover the walls. And this will be a memory that kids will have forever. Because who gets to actually deface property with an invitation?
Right.
It's going to be really fun.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah. I mean, that's when my kids grew up. We were always kind of that house, that family. I'll tell you one story that my kids still talk about today. When we were packing up to move from Encino to the beach, which was a lot smaller of a place, but we always wanted to live at the beach. I really needed help packing. And my kids always got a lot of grief growing up because I would not allow cursing in the house at all. Not because I was a prude, I just felt like it showed a lack of imagination. And I really wanted my kids to build their vocabulary. And they got a lot of crap from their friends about it because the friends knew when they came over, they could not, except for moving day. So I said, I need help packing. You guys come over, you can curse as much as you want. And and they were like, what? And I had like dozens of kids come over, and I opened the door and I'm like, hello, MFer, come on in the house, and the kids were just like, what? Their heads were exploding to hear me curse, but it was such a fun, like unself-conscious, crazy day. And we got everything packed. It was great.
But see, everyone can hear this already that's listening, Claire. And I knew this when I was reading my sample chapter yesterday and just perusing your website. You are fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And
you
there's
are
a big difference between fun and funny. You know, I worked as a business consultant, a humor consultant for business for many years. And it was really disheartening to me to meet so many people who felt that having fun was counterproductive, that you somehow could not get the job done by having fun. You can have fun and get the job done. And I proved it every which way. And I think if, you know, there's so many silver linings to the pandemic, and I'm really wired for to find the positive in everything. And I think one of the great takeaways is that we really reinvented how we work and where we work and why we work. And if we're not going to have fun, oh my gosh, forget about it. And I'll tell you something else. As a single woman in her 60s in the dating world, I will not go out with anybody that's not making me laugh. Nothing gets my clothes off faster than a funny guy. Let me just tell you that. There is nothing sexier. It's the best, you know?
You got me. Now, let me tell you something, Claire. I had been married once for 13 years. Excuse me, 7 years. Then I was divorced for 13 years, met husband number 2, my husband right now. He had also been married once, divorced the same amount of time. Neither of us are the easiest people, I think, in the world to live with. Okay, we aren't. We both very set in our ways. We both like things. We like to do things our way. But because we make each other laugh, that we've been married
with anything.
We've been married for 33 years because he cracks me up, exactly as you said. Without that, I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. And I really, really wanted to have that house growing up. I'm not saying our life was easy. We had really serious issues going on in our house, but I really made a point to make sure that we had the house that kids always felt safe and happy in. And they always knew when they would come over, something fun and crazy could happen. I mean, one day I took them all to the 99-cent store. I gave them each $5. I said, I'll see you in a half hour. You can't believe the stuff they bought. It was like supermarket sweep for 10-year-olds. It was the best $30 I've ever spent in my life. It was so fun.
You know, that is a tip. If you've had just enough with children for a day, that is such a good plan. Or even planning a birthday party around that, saying, and now everyone, your favor is the $5 and I'm paying for 99.
And the things they bought, Denise, I mean, it was hilarious. You know, the safety goggles and the strange coral lipstick and there's that one kid that is spending every penny on candy. And they're coming back with those dots on the paper and the suckers and the strips. And it's all this crap candy. But man, volume. You know, it was really fun to see what they did, you know?
I think that is one of the smartest ideas I have ever heard.
Yeah. I mean, you could spend hundreds of dollars on a circus clown and a pony, you know, but to me, what beats the 99-cent store? That is enough.
Now, this is when we're talking about how much is enough. And our age. And when you just said that, when I was younger, and I think this is very common, and certainly the women that listen to us, and I say this all the time to younger friends of mine that are younger. When I was younger, I wanted to go to Neiman Marcus and buy that Louis Vuitton bag when I got a bonus from running my kitchen and making the kitchen money for the people I work for. So that's what I did. And I carried that bag and it was great. And I enjoyed it. Now, most of it, I've had that. Now they sit on a shelf in my closet, but I prop them there. So it looks like, someone said to me, this is like the Louis Vuitton Museum. I said, that's what I was going for. Okay. Now, I can sell them. They're worth more money than I paid for them. But I like them because they're reminders of me of goals that I set and goals that I hit and goals that I got. But you know what? There is nothing more fun to me now at this age because less is more. And how much do I need? And you're asking the question. some days, and I say this to people all the time, I don't need anything. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? I really finally realized at it was about at 70 when I downsized, had garage sales, gave stuff away, sold stuff that I thought I don't need anything.
Well,
And COVID
yeah,
that too.
absolutely. COVID gave us that inventory for sure, because when things weren't so readily available. But things are things. And really, whether it's the pandemic or our age and stage of life, for me, time. I can never have enough time, especially with my kids. And in the travel chapter, I talk about the most selfish gift I've ever given anyone was my daughter's college graduation. We did a 10-day road trip from Los Angeles to Las Vegas to Bryce, Zion, Monument Valley, Grand Canyon, and back home. It was a 1,700-mile, 10-day loop that I will never forget, and neither will she. Because honestly, for those of us that have adult children, all we want is time with them. And they have spent their lives, individuating and adulting and moving away from us. And so
Yeah,
time together, there's never enough time with adult children. So I hold that memory so, so, so tenderly in my heart. And if when people talk about, how much is enough stuff, I'm like, can you replace stuff with travel?
yes,
Making memories together, having a life experience, getting out of your comfort zone. That to me is the richest kind of life experience. And I can never get enough of that.
I agree. I had this discussion with a woman this morning on Facebook, and all of her friends, she was very honest, but basically, Claire, she had gone past the point of gathering a lot of stuff because several people have died, so she kept it all. Do you know what I mean? But she said, and recently my sister said I'm a hoarder. Now, of course, no one wanted to use that word in our little discussion, but the more she talked about it, the more I thought she's a hoarder.
Yeah. It's a legit psychological disorder.
Absolutely.
And this is about people who define themselves by their stuff. And
Yes.
maybe they came from a generation of the Depression where there was not enough of anything. And so why would you turn something down? When someone leaves you something, you keep it. But it's a law of diminished returns. You can't use, how many pair of pants can we all wear at a time? One pair of shoes,
Um, and this is the only thing I could say. I didn't want, she was so open and so honest, and people were saying, I hate when people say, oh, you should buy Marie Kondo's book. I read that book. I hated it. The Swedish Death Cleaning. I hated it. You have to come to terms inside that you realize that you've been accumulating this stuff because something else was missing in your life. Okay. Get rid of some of the stuff. But when she got to the point, Claire, and this gave me the heebie-jeebies, which I'm sure you've never heard that expression because only my grandmother, who was older
Oh,
than
I've heard that expression.
she used to say, she then said, and we do have these two houses loaded full. And I have three storage units that are full.
Oh,
And
that's business.
I said to her, the only thing I said is, I know how hard it is to part with your stuff, but here's the thing. You need to get rid of the 3 storage units if you're not even living with that stuff. When was the last time you saw that stuff? And
one of the exercises in my book in the stuff chapter is to, if you do have a storage space, go to that space and pull out 3 things. 1 that you want to keep forever, 2 that you never want to see it again, and 3 that somebody else would really benefit from. And to start with that gives you a perspective on the rest of the inventory. If you can do 3 at a time with these 3 intentions, it really moves you in the right direction to understanding truly what is enough.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about fun. You've already given us that fabulous 99-cent store tip. And no, it really is. I have to tell you something, Claire. On difficult days, working in television, for corporate clients, with food that was ugly. Okay, talk about turn a meatloaf pretty. It's not the easiest thing in the world.
Did you ever work on a Jack in the Box commercial with
Yeah.
that big giant hamburger? So did they have a crazy diner waitress that had a big giant hairdo? That was me. And they had as many bobby pins in the hamburger that they had in my hair. I had to drive home like this because my hair was so big. And then we turned it into a math project because when I came home, I said, take the pins out of my hair, kids. Count how many. First, we had to guess. And that's how many pins they had in the burgers to make them all poofy.
The,
Crazy.
the tricks of the trade.
Yeah.
But it was, but you know what, Claire, Cindy and I would say, Cindy was really good at this, and we would look at each other sometimes in the back and gossip about the client and say something really awful about them. And that would make us feel better for a short period of time. And then we would laugh. But when we laughed about it, we weren't upset anymore. And we got through every day because we decided to make it fun, regardless.
And I think you have to meet people where they live. Where is someone's sense of humor? And again, circling back to children, when I had 10, 11-year-old boys in my house and it was Halloween, I took them all. Do you remember Cinema Secrets on Riverside Drive in Toluca Lake, Burbank? It's where everybody would go at Halloween to get all this crazy stage makeup. And I told them that they could all go in there and get one thing. And they came out with a bullet wound in their head, with glass shard in their wrist, like their chest pulled open. I mean, they went to town. And then the moms came and dads to pick up their kids. And the kids walked out like, zombies. Oh my God, they looked at me like I had lost my mind, and I laughed so hard. But it was everything to those boys. They had so much fun. And again, not that expensive. Not
Yeah.
that expensive.
I think part of what I'm sure this is, you touch on this in your book, Claire, but you touched on hiring a clown or doing all these things, all the parties. And of course, we're exposed to so much of it in Southern California.
Yeah.
My thing, and before I was a trained chef and I ran a big catering kitchen. So we had yachts. So all the clients were TV stars, and they, Chuck Lorrimore and all these guys that in the beginning, and Aaron Spelling, and they made a fortune. Yeah. And they gave these lavish parties and weddings. But from where I was from, I would look at these and think, when they'd spent $1 million or $2 million on the wedding, I'd think, and I'd been with the bride and groom a little bit, beforehand. And I think this wedding has 6 months, 6 months on the outside. But that was certainly their choice. And they put a lot of money in the economy. I'm not complaining about that. But the emphasis on money, or parties, or expensive things for your children, when you just said it, when a $3 item can give that kid more fun.
When a $3 bullet wound can give that kid so much fun, you're right.
I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. And my dad at the end of his life was very, very deep in dementia. And I will tell you, we had so much fun because I just stayed in his reality. And that's what I mean when I say I'm also like, I'm not a circus clown. I'm talking about real things in my life here. And my dad, he was in his own reality, and he would call me and say, there's, a monkey outside my window. And I would approach it like an improv actor, the yes and approach, right? So you don't ever deny the reality of a scene, because then you're ending the scene. You're ruining it for the other performers. So I really approached my dad like that. And so if he told me something, one day he called me, he's like, you got to come over here. I have big news. He's 93 at this point. He says, I decided to quit my job. My dad retired when he was 64. He's like, and I'm going to spend more time with mom now. I'm so excited. And my mom had been gone 17 years at that point, but there was their wedding picture. And I said, Dad, Mom will be so happy, because in that moment, he was so happy. He was so excited. Who am I to tell him he's wrong? This is his story. This is his moment. I'm just going to visit it with him.
Good for you.
Yeah, right?
Good for you. No, Claire, I get it.
Could there be anything more disrespectful than telling someone in dementia, remember, ... starting the sentence with remember? So disrespectful. If they could, they would. So
Yeah.
let's just be where we are now,
We must have told my grandmother 50 times. She didn't live long after my grandfather died, but every time we'd get there, she'd say, "How's Harry?" And of course, my mother and her sister would feel, you know, they'd feel compelled to say, "Mom, he died. Don't you remember?" And then she'd cry. So the visit was all about then, exactly what you're saying, proving your point, was all about Harry was dead. Harry was dead. And when I went alone, and when I said to my mother one day, she'd say, "How was my mother?" I said she was fine. And when she said, "How's Harry?" I said, "He's great. He's fishing," because that's what he liked to do. "Oh, I'm so glad he loves his boat." And you know
What
what?
did that hurt? What did that hurt?
Nobody. But it was mostly
Staying
why.
in their reality is enough. It's enough.
That's brilliant. I never thought that that's what I was doing, but when you said it, it came flashing because I felt so badly that we all went to visit her, and then all she did was cry.
Yeah, you did that. That's your fault because you corrected her reality.
And I remember thinking there has to be a better way. And pretty soon I just started saying, "He's fishing today," and she would be so
Perfect.
happy.
That's
And then
perfect.
we'd talk about what she ate, or then she also had to mention that the man in the room next door had tried to sneak into her room.
Sure, because she's a hot seat. That's why. But, in the book, there's a lot of questions for self-reflection. And what I really want to do is to get people to think like this, to really take a look at the status quo of their life. One of the questions I ask in the fun chapter is, has there been a time where you injected humor into a prickly situation, and how did it turn out? When you challenge people to really look at life through a different lens, the glass half full, the glass half, empty. No, there's water in the glass, Let's just enjoy the water, whatever's in there. Let's figure it out, It's enough.
I couldn't agree with you more. What do you think? Why this is totally off the cuff. This is just, you don't have to answer this. All this stuff, when people are talking about politically incorrect and how it's affected comedy and how it's affected humor, what do you think about that? What do you think about it?
I think that the world is really, really sadly divided. I think it's really hurt families. It's not just hurt comedians' careers, but it's hurt families, whether it's anti-vaxxers or, Republicans versus Democrats. I think that there has to be some sort of meeting ground where we can all agree to disagree. And, the beautiful thing about a sense of humor is everybody has a different one.
Yeah.
Like when you look at a picture, everybody sees something different. When you take a bite of something delicious, I hope you'll enjoy the food chapter. I think you guys really will. But it's not everybody tastes the exact same spoonful of food the same way. And so I think we have to make accommodations and come to a place of understanding that we all have a different perspective on life, and we have to figure out a way to coexist. We just have.
I think that's a great answer. I have nothing to add. When I've heard comedians complaining that they can't say anything because somebody will be offended, well, maybe because our society has changed, our culture has changed, maybe they shouldn't be saying that anymore.
Maybe some of it's for the better. I mean, thank you,
right.
Me Too. Thank you very much for the Me Too campaign.
Thank you.
It really helped women, earn the respect that they have long deserved and had to fight for. And I have no problem taking misogynistic humor out of nightclubs. I think it's great.
I agree. I totally agree.
And the male comics that don't understand that just need to walk in our shoes a little bit and understand what we've had to put up with our whole profession.
Where I always try to find the funny in it, Claire. That's just how, and my father was like that. I was raised that way. Do you know what I mean? And he was one of those guys. And of course, now they go, "Oh, that's so abusive." But he wasn't saying like that. He'd be sitting in his chair. One of us would start to whine or cry about something. And he would say, "Come over to me a little closer. I'll give you something to cry about." And we would laugh because he never hit us. But we knew what he was these
Yeah.
big baseball mitt of a hands. He'd give us something to cry about. And we would laugh like crazy. And I still laugh at that. Do you know what I mean? I
I mean,
still laugh.
we have to find the funny,
We have to find funny.
I had a lot of challenges in my marriage and ended it after I was married for 30 years. And towards the end of the marriage, I begged my then husband to please go get his ears checked because he wasn't listening to anything that I said. And I said, can we just rule out the medical? And he agreed to go to an audiologist. He comes home, and this was the funniest thing in the 30 years of marriage he ever said. He said, I've got good news and bad news. The good news is my hearing is fine. The bad news is my hearing is fine.
That's perfect.
I still laugh about that. You know, it's like, well, here we go. This is what it is, right?
I read several tips in the chapter that you had for fun, for making things fun. Would you share those with us?
Yeah, I mean, one that I really love is, journaling fun for a day. Like really wake up and set the intention of having fun for a day and chart the course. Whether it's your voice memo on your phone or a little old school pen and paper little notebook, but set the intention to find the fun in the day. And then look back at the day and think about how much better you feel. Because the truth is, what are the people that never have enough? What do they have in common? They're unhappy and they're unhealthy. And if you just stood back and stopped doing this, I don't have enough inventory, and appreciate the fact that, my God, you have more than enough. And really document proof of that.
Yes.
And look at life in a far, far more positive, healthier way.
Such good advice. I can't handle whining, Claire. That's my thing. Okay. You can be pissed. You can be angry. Someone can blow up. Then they can, you know what? I mean, I can handle confrontation of some, because I worked in kitchens, and in kitchens, they're like hot fires, and you blow up for a minute, and then everybody an hour later has a beer together and says, see you tomorrow, love you. Okay. So none of that kind of friction doesn't bother me. I think it should be dealt with, and you should, talk about it. But whining, I'm not good at whining. When people whine to me, Claire, in my mind, I'm thinking I could strangle you with both hands and stuff.
I would tell my kids, I just can't hear you. I can't hear you. That's a frequency that I just can't, I can't hear it in my ears. You have to speak in a voice that I can understand. This is beyond, I can't, and it would drive them crazy, but they got the message, I'm not going to respond to whining. So I'm with you.
So I can handle a smoking gun when my girlfriend arrived and says, I did a bad thing. And inside I'm thinking, oh man, this is going to get messy, but not whining.
No. Well, I am so excited for you to read the rest of the book, Denise, because it's just, I really tell my truth, and I tell so many stories about enough from my perspective. And, there were times where I thought, wow, am I sharing too much? But the truth is, if I wasn't 100% honest, I couldn't ask you, the reader or the listener, to share your truths. And this is great for book clubs. This is great for girlfriend get-togethers, for, poolside chats with good friends, a good car trip. This is a great audio accompanying for a car trip, because I ask all the questions, and you can pause and really have a conversation with your car mate about the topic at hand. And so I really, really honestly 100% wrote this book not to get on a bestseller list, but to start a conversation. That's my goal with this book.
Now, I know that you, on your website, there's tour dates coming from Southern California.
Yes.
So that local people can come and meet you and buy a book. You've written other books too, didn't you write?
I have. Yeah. So my first book was Funny Works, 52 Ways to Get to Have More Fun at Work. And that's when I was in my humor consulting for business days. And it was sort of an upsell at my motivational speeches and consulting practice. The next book I wrote was during the pandemic, and I was hired as the ghostwriter for the Italian culinary immersion program called Tuscan Women Cook in Montefalonico. And so I wrote the cookbook for them. I did not do the recipes, but I did all the headers, footers, the provenance of the recipes and the ingredients. And it happened right at the beginning of the pandemic where everybody was so locked down. And I would put, I would just saute garlic on the stove. I'd simmer a sugo. I'd get it like a whole thing going. I'd roll some fresh pasta, and then I'd just start writing. And the sensory experience, I think, really came through, and it really saved me because I was going to Italy in my mind every day at the beginning of the pandemic, and it really helped me not feel so shut in and isolated. So, yeah, I know a little bit about a lot of things, and I'm a master of none.
I love that. I have no problems with that. Well, now listen. Anything else I wanted to ask you, Claire? And where can people buy your book?
So if you go to claireberger.com,
right,
I have a super easy link on there, anywhere you love to buy books. Okay. So whether it's through an independent bookseller, whether it's Barnes & Noble, whether it's Amazon, if you come to my events, you can buy it from me directly. So I am about to embark on a 6-month book tour, and I'm going to be all over the country. My house is getting torn up. I got nowhere to go. So
what a brilliant idea.
It's so perfect. So in Los Angeles in July, we will be, and I say we because I'm going to be in conversation with the brilliant and funny comedian Wendy Hammers. And so we're going to be doing these book conversations in beauty salons, in health food stores, in Italian restaurants. We'll be at La Puglia in Santa Monica. We're going to do, and every event they're all free. And every event we're going to spotlight 2 different chapters. So for example, at La Puglia, we're going to spotlight the food and the travel chapter. And then after our event, the owners of La Puglia are putting together this incredible, very reasonably priced prefix menu for anybody that wants to stay and have dinner with us. So we're really thinking out of the box. We're doing Zibby's bookstore on Montana, and we're so excited and honored because we love Zibby's and the Village Well in Culver City. These alternative in the Village Well, by the way, we'll be doing the sex and love chapter. So you don't want to miss that. That's that's on 7-Eleven. You want to come for that. So all the events are free. They're on my website, claireberger.com. Under events, you scroll down the homepage, you'll see it at the bottom. Here in New York on the 20th, I'm doing an event with CBS Sunday Morning's Nancy Giles. She and I are actresses together at the Second City. So, and she and I really worked on this book together because she was also writing something simultaneously. So we were sort of, each other's accountability buddy to get the book written.
How perfect.
I'm so excited to be in conversation with her as well.
I love her. I've seen her career blossom. I've watched her. Good for her. Good for you. When you said you were going to tear apart your house, I thought, well, where are you going to live? How smart. You're on a book tour.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to Frances McDormand it. I'm not like a minivan. I can drink out of the same rusty old cup. I'm not that gal, I picked cities where I have friends and family that have a really comfy guest room, a well-stocked kitchen, and enjoy playing Scrabble. Those are my 3 criteria. And I'm going to be all over. I'm going to be in Illinois in September. I'm going to do a book event at my 50th high school reunion.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
You are thinking outside the box.
Way outside. Yeah. So it's going to be great. And then in November, I'll be in the mid-Atlantic states, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia. January, I'll be at Palm Springs in concert with the Palm Springs International Film Festival. I'll be doing book events during that time too. So I'm in it for a good time. I really am.
All of this, you will keep updating your website so people know what you are.
And please sign up. I'm just really inviting all of your listeners to please sign up for my newsletter. I do not do not fill up your inbox with a bunch of crap. I really only send out one thing a month. I really keep it resourceful and inspirational. And if you share your email with me, you get the free chapter. So, I'm not just, something for something here, right?
I signed up. I read the free chapter. I'm going to be ordering the book after we finish talking today.
Thank you.
And, Claire, I cannot thank you enough.
Well, and if you guys are in LA area in July, please come to an event. Come say hi. Any of your listeners, please come see me when I'm on the road. I'd love to meet everybody and really talk about this topic. It's
a big topic.
Yeah, it's a big one.
It's a big one. I want to thank you. I want to thank her website again, Claire Berger, Berger. It's very clean and so easy to navigate. Cindy for keeping the wheels on the train that she does every single week.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And for everyone that listens and people, we had a new friend that's a songwriter on. And we got so many lovely Claire messages about her. Do you know what I mean? Because again, a woman and she's going on a musical tour. Her whole thing is after coming out of a relationship and years of working in the corporate world, she's going on tour as a songwriter. My friend Allison Tucker, and I say this because hers is called Second Chances, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And we got so many nice messages about Allison, and I bet the same thing happens when people listen to you.
Oh, thank you, Denise. This has been so much fun. I feel like I've just been yakking with a girlfriend. So thank you very much.
You know what? That's the idea, honestly. Thank you, Claire. And I look forward to talking to you again. And just the best to you. And your book, I hope it just sells boatloads because I think it's so important.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate sharing this with your listeners and having this time together with you guys. Thank you very much for inviting me.
If anyone wants to reach out to us, it is womenbeyond@icloud.com. Lots of times people don't want to write. We have a Facebook page. We get lots of messages there. But if not, if people want to private message me and ask me a question, feel free. I understand that too. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you. Happy summer, everybody.
Have a great tour, and we'll talk to you again. Bye.
Bye-bye.